am happy to have today Alexis Guzzard, who is an ergonomist and an owner of Wyatt Safety. That has intrigued me since you came on our guest list. So I'm very, very happy to have you. We do primarily workers' comp case management and services in the workers' comp industry. So now with COVID, I would think your business, line of work, industry really can take off with the work at home, virtual home situation that people have been put in. So before we get started into that, which is really what I want to talk about, but I think for people who tune in, I think it would be nice to just hear a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about how you started your company, why you started your company, and what you do as a leader to inspire those who work for you.
So basically, I was working for a health and safety department in the studios, and so it was much broader than just ergonomics, but ergonomics was a small part, and then it grew as sit-to-stand desks became very popular. And this company that I was working for was about 5,500 people at the time that I serviced on lot, and then about 3,000 back east who I would telecommute with. And so it was very busy, and it became kind of consuming in my role. Move forward a couple of years, I had my son. I have 2 children, and so I had my son. He's going to be 5 next month. And
oh, that's fun.
Yes, it is very fun and very interesting with COVID. And when I was kind of wrapping up maternity leave and looking at, basically childcare was really difficult. I was working in Santa Monica. I live in Santa Clarita. So the commute was difficult. My husband, he's a firefighter, so he's gone, and sometimes gone indefinitely. So I talked to my old boss and I said, I don't know how I can come back to work with this brand new baby and like leave him. I don't know where to leave him. It's becoming complicated, yada, yada. And fortunately, he was a real family man. And so we talked about the possibility of me branching off, establishing my own business, more so the name in itself, just so that I could branch off, and then consulting directly for him. Because the company is large enough that it just kind of is, I call it the domino effect. You go and see one person, and then the next person, big open areas, people see what other people are getting, and so the business kind of serves itself. And so that's what I did. And that's how, he's the one who said, my son's name is Wyatt. So he said, call it Wyatt Safety. It's like, just call it Wyatt Safety, make it fun. And so I went with that. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And Wyatt Safety has been alive and kicking for 3 years this past July.
Congratulations.
So,
congratulations.
thank you.
It's also great to hear the support that you had. You know, that's so.
I tell them every time I go in, I poke my head in and I'm like, do you even know what you did for my family? Because it's true, as a woman, and especially with an unusual schedule with my husband, I had to make it work. I didn't want to stop working because, you know, in this field, it's very easy to become irrelevant. Things keep moving forward. And even with the ergonomics program, we've streamlined it so that I have an online form. And before I'm even off the phone, or previously, before I would leave somebody's office, they would have the report ready to go. So they would know what I was recommending and why, and then there was no waiting time. And that's how I like to do things, because when the whole point is avoiding a workers' comp case. And
Exactly.
And you want to keep people happy.
Which is why I'm so excited to talk to you about it all. Really so excited. How has it been with COVID? Did it change the way you worked? Were you doing remote assessments already? And can you tell me about the people who were under you? How do you work with a team during this time and in your business in general? And tell me, we'll get into the nitty gritty. I really want to get into the nitty gritty of the injuries, but let's talk about the others first.
So, well, the first thing is that I am the only person. I function as a single ergonomist. I have toyed with bringing somebody on. I actually have a friend who graduated CSUN with me from the same department, and she's actually job shadowed me and come along with me. And then COVID happened, and I encouraged her to branch off and start her own business, but also sometimes if I had work overflow, I would suggest sharing that with her. Other than that, I really function as a single person, but it's unique because I'm consulting for my old department. So there are people within that department who also help run, like on the back end, we use FormStack. And so I don't know if that's okay to say, but we use FormStack. And so if there's a glitch or an issue or even an employee that their equipment is not working, I will refer it to them. And then from there, it goes to workers' comp within the company. I currently am consulting for 2 large companies, both studios. And so they both—
Are they both in California?
Yes, Southern California.
Okay.
And
So you're in one jurisdiction, which makes it easy.
yes, that's true. And I probably take that for granted.
Our company does primarily the entire Mid-Atlantic, Northeast. We also work workers' comp in California, which is one of the toughest states in the country for sure when it comes to the rules and regs of workers' comp. But yeah, it's difficult when you're in more than one jurisdiction. We specialize in New York, which makes we feel experts in that area, but definitely having one jurisdiction is much, much easier.
Sure.
So tell me,
I'm sure.
caseload. Do you carry a certain caseload all the time? Are they cases that you handle, evaluate, and discharge? Or are you consistently monitoring certain employees?
Yes and no. So that's where, though Wyatt Safety is just me, I'm definitely not solo when it comes to the caseload. So let's say you have the want versus need situation all the time with ergonomics. You have somebody who sees their neighbors sit to stand, and that's where you really see the domino effect. But then you have the person who has a significant wrist injury or who has even had surgery or was injured off the job, even comes back in, and their job is aggravating their injury, which is also still our problem to deal with. So in that case, let's say we do everything we can, their angles are perfect, everything looks fantastic, but they're still miserable, we have to refer them to workers' comp. And that actually is where it leaves me, and it really primarily for liability reasons, it stays within the department and HR, because health and safety for actually both of the companies, I believe, is under HR kind of. They share that umbrella. And so then from there it goes to workers' comp, and I'm pretty much hands off. Every now and then I'll get a doctor's note from somebody and I'll tell them, I don't even want to see it. I don't want it. For me, that becomes liability because I'm supposed to pretty much stick with information-based health. Which is the recommendations of equipment based on what I see and what I'm hearing from the employee. That's where, fortunately, it is doable to do this either on Zoom or even to get some photos from the employee and do it over the phone, which I've been doing. But I actually did not have a single assessment from March 13th until the beginning of this month.
Wow, fantastic.
It was—
tell me about the employees. Are they sedentary primarily?
Yes, for the most part. Previously, I've worked with a lot of people who work in kind of like, well, you know what, it's not worth mentioning. Because I have worked with both, but it doesn't really overlap with what I'm doing now, so I won't even mention that.
But currently, they're primarily sedentary. Yeah. So tell me what that assessment looks like. What does the assessment look like of the average employee that you're dealing with?
So pre-COVID, when I go into somebody's office, typically they have a bare desk. Most employees have a decent chair, but sometimes it's very dated, or sometimes you have this tiny little petite employee swimming in this gigantic chair, or you have a larger employee, a very tall employee in a tiny chair. So that there's something when I go into—
Sounds like the Three Bears.
Yes. It is like that. And sometimes it feels like the Three Bears because we try this one and it doesn't work, and then this one. But it is a lot like that. And there's always something off. And again, you have the petite employee where the desk height doesn't work, and also sometimes for the tall employee. So there's a lot of working with what they have. I typically don't bring in new furniture. more so refer to it as ergonomic equipment. And so the basic things like a footrest to help with knee angle, that's something that is so easy to do. And it doesn't just help with knee angle, it also gets your back end in the seat. And now you're actually effectively using your lumbar support. And it can change somebody's situation who's having like shoulder tension. Same thing with wrist issues. You walk in and you see someone doing something funny, maybe the wrist angle is okay, but they're doing other things, twisting a funny way. You have people in accounting who have their hand up on top of their calculator all day long, and then they're wondering why their wrist hurts. So there's a lot of unique situations, but it's pretty much the same. You go in, someone is sitting there, and something's just not quite right. And fortunately, we've kind of streamlined the sit to stand process in that implementing them financially is not exorbitant.
Can you explain that a little bit in detail for people who might be watching? We deal we're twofold. Our industry of medical case management, we have clients, employers that have heavy duty workers. They are out in the field, they're in the warehouse, they're driving trucks, they're distribution. The other side is the repetitive injuries. We have a lot of occupational injuries that occur repetitively. So like you said, using the wrist, potentially typing at a desk, accounting work, attorney work, research, academics. So give me a couple hints and tips that we could give those people interested in it. And also tell me about sit to stand, because it is something that has become more popular, and I don't know how much employers understand about it, nor the workers in the workplace.
So it's funny because you have the employee who has read 10 articles before I even get there, and they'll start telling me all about sit to stands. So basically, the kind of, especially encompassing what you're talking about, and also tying in COVID, when you're moving from, like, say, an office setting to your home setting, I can't stress enough how adjustable furniture makes the biggest difference. Chair with adjustable lumbar support, of course, adjustable height, but there's so much more. There's tilt functions of chairs that make such a big difference for employees. And then with sit to stand equipment, one of my favorite things, I don't know if it's okay to throw out names, but I do like the Ergotron brand. And one of the things I like about them is if you have somebody who is, let's say, standard height, which means they are accommodated just fine, wrist height, eye height, and all of that with a standard height desk. They have sit to stand furniture that sits on top of the desk that works for that height of person. And what it is a platform that has handles on either side that you squeeze, the whole thing comes up, and they can continue typing. So they're not like, everything comes up, the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, everything comes up.
So they can adjust it as they're working through their workday.
Exactly. And that same brand also offers, for people who aren't standard height, different kinds of clamping options that allow their sitting posture to come down, where they have a keyboard tray that comes below the height, the desk height. And that is incredibly important because so many people, especially nowadays, want to say, oh, standing all day long is going to cure my issue, whether it be back, neck, shoulders, wrists, anything, knees, hips. And I can't stress enough that standing all day is absolutely not the cure. You have to sit properly, and it is good to change up what you're doing with your body. And so if you're not sitting properly, but then you're standing, and then you're standing more because your sitting setup isn't comfortable, then you're not going to solve your issues. So what I like about adjustable furniture, and just specifically adjustable sit to stand furniture, is that when it does allow an employee who needs a lower keyboard and mouse to sit properly, then when they do stand, they're refreshed. They're not aching already. They're just kind of like, oh, I have this sit to stand, I might as well stand right now. And then, and when people are feeling refreshed like that, it promotes work, good attitude, positivity, people are happier. It makes a world of difference. The other question
definitely, and it prevents workers' comp injuries.
And yes, absolutely. And I think for the really valid workers' comp issues, somebody who really has an inflamed wrist, even a sit to stand option can aid in that. Not only getting them set up properly sitting, but our whole balance is different when we're standing, and it does take pressure off the wrist or the neck. And again, just changing it up is beneficial for our bodies, no matter what we're doing. Like you said, some of the larger workloads and lifting, and you can't be repetitive all the time.
How are you analyzing, assessing individuals at home now? How are you able to assess that workstation? And what is the best workstation that you recommend for people to set up at home? Outside of free and clear of dogs barking, children crying.
That I can't help with. I can't even fix that in my own home.
We call it the no apology zone.
Right.
Everyone is free to join, come. You have to be empathetic to the home situation.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we're all in the same boat, so we can laugh about it. I've actually worked from home for a while now with kids and dogs, and so I have had those embarrassing moments even prior to COVID, where I've just, oh my gosh, will the UPS guy please just leave and walk away already?
Well, it's funny, before we started, my husband decided today would be the day that he would trim all the bushes around the house. And I thought, oh, great day. Now I will have home repairs going on outside.
Or hospital trips. Yeah, it's hard. But so I will say the worst setup that I've seen, and unfortunately I've seen it a couple times, is somebody will have their spouse or whoever is in the house, or even a parent come by and take a picture of them from the side. And I have people in their living room chairs bending over with a laptop on their coffee table. Mm-hmm. So that's been kind of my favorite thing to see, because my question is, are you going to get a desktop computer? And originally when COVID first started, we thought we were going to be back in business in what was it, 2 weeks?
And then a short time. Yeah.
After spring break, and you keep getting all these different things. So people think, well, I don't really need to spend the money and go through all of that to get things shipped. But so now the biggest thing, fortunately, the companies that I support are shipping office equipment to the homes. But now you have people who don't have the desk. So that has become a bit of an HR issue, and it's fortunately not something that I can be really hands-on with. What I have had people do is they send, because also people want what they like if it's going to be in their home.
Oh, and that's exactly true. You have people working in their home. They have maybe limited space that they're working in. Absolutely. They're now being told to work from home, and the employer cannot mandate what space they're in, but really wants the safest environment. Are there cords on the floor? Is the charger plugged in and you're going to trip over it when you stand up? So many things that I think employers are so concerned about.
Well, and that's where a big part of my recommendation process becomes measurements. I need to know the measurements of the available space, and the side picture. That's why sometimes Zoom doesn't work, because I need that side picture. I've had people FaceTime me and hold it off to the side and be like, is this right? Not ideal, but effective enough that I can see what needs to be adjusted. And so that's where, depending on what kind of desk we're able to get in there, what kind of chair, fortunately, a lot of chairs have been able to be shipped. But again, with COVID, some people don't want delivery people coming into their home.
Right. Right.
And another liability issue is they want to set up their big heavy duty equipment on their own. So another issue.
Exactly. You're now putting together your own desk, your own chair.
And then complaining about a backache, which is very real. So it's a hard, weird time. Again, back to the domino effect. That's where I've been this last month, been rolling out assessments. And then as people talk to their coworkers and hear that it's available now that they're at home, more have been coming in, which is great, because we don't want workers' comp cases. That would be absolutely ridiculous right now, because the ironic thing is that everybody wants to work from home. Everybody is always finding a way.
I think most people like to work from home. I'd like to get back in the office. I miss the camaraderie and the creativity that is sparked when people are together. but I know most of my employees love working from home. It cuts down on travel time, the clothes that you have to wear, buying lunches out, you know, $6 coffees.
Right.
It all adds up.
Traffic.
And people can, especially with COVID, have their kids home,
Yes.
teach their kids from home. So yeah, it's been a definite interesting thing. If you could impart one thing on general employers who do employ sedentary workers, what can they suggest to their employees, myself included, to do a couple times a day or just to maintain that best posture work environment? What could you recommend?
Well, let's say that for an employer who doesn't have the means to supply every employee with sit to stands and new chairs and all of that, getting up and walking around is ideal. Other tricks that I think my mom is actually teaching online, and she is working on her kitchen counter or like her kitchen table. And she's like, see, everything looks good. I'm just going to my chiropractor because my neck's bothering me. And so I told her, everyone talks about posture, and you mentioned posture. That's what made me think of this. She's holding herself up perfectly as she shows me this. And that does not mean that you have perfect posture. In the moment you do, but as we get absorbed in our work, our posture doesn't maintain that stature. So the most important thing is to be upright and relaxed. And even something as simple as a pillow like this, just a back pillow, put it behind your back. It's not ideal. I would rather have a chair where your shoulders are touching, but it's better than sinking into a chair or sinking into a couch and being so much lower than your surface. Or of course, many of us are on laptops. And so the other very simple solution to that is propping your laptop up and ordering a separate keyboard and mouse versus typing and looking down. Or some people will prop up their laptop and continue to type up, and that's not ideal either. So if you are working on a laptop, separate them. Just get the separate keyboard and mouse. That's a fairly
excellent suggestion. I think that is spot on. Excellent suggestion.
And the rest is another.
And I like your comment on posture. I was raised in let's say a strict background in parochial schools, and posture was everything. But I still to this day think everybody has a complaint of their back and neck hurting because you're in a hard back chair, you're trying to sit straight all the time. I like the suggestion of the pillow behind the back.
Yes, and there are chairs from like Office Depot and even on Amazon that you can order and have at your doorstep the next day that are decent. If that is possible, something with built-in lumbar support. And then I always try and get employees to sit more upright. There are a lot of employees that have a loose chair and they like to really lean back. If they're not complaining of something specific and that's how they function best, then it's okay. But ideally, to have a rigid back where you are relaxing back in that upright position is most practical, because what happens when I say I can't see something coming forward and immediately my neck angle is. So that's where just simple alignment with angles. I kind of the 90 degree angle rule, elbows, knees, body, and then your eye line is typically about a third of the way down from your screen. It's always helpful to have somebody kind of look at you from the side because our perspective is skewed because we're like coming out, you know, from our own eyes. But those simple things can be achieved. It's tough. It's really hard. And then not everybody has a dedicated office. I don't. I'm set up in my family room, and then it gets really difficult, especially if you're on the go. We're also doing online school right now, and it's hard because you kind of are getting fitting work into your life where you normally would go to the office and have so much more downtime than you ever even realized.
Exactly. And that, you know, that makes me think about, we're currently investigating procedures and really fine-tuning procedures for people who claim COVID occurred at the workplace. COVID is could potentially be an occupationally causally related, you know, not injury, but disease. So you're making me think about the fact that people are working at home on home skills and needs and tasks and work simultaneously. And how do you separate them? How do you divide them? And it's basically the same thing now in our assessment of COVID. Did COVID occur at the workplace or on your way to the store, at the store, visiting a grandparent? You know, there's so many things, but the same thing in the workplace. How do you keep work and home separated?
Right. Well, and if you have one negligent person who goes into a workplace and is completely unaware or choosing to be unaware, who knows, they could really run amok and infect a whole lot of areas. So it is very real. It's hard. It is so hard.
It's so hard, so hard. You have been a joy, but I do want to give you my best to your husband. So you're in California and he's a fireman?
Yes.
So is he working now, I'm sure, on these big fires that are?
It's funny, he had one in Simi Valley, and nothing outrageous. He's in the valley, and the valley is so busy between medical calls and other emergencies. So he tends to kind of stay at his home base, but he has had a couple of fires, more so than normal, definitely.
Wow.
But for him, COVID is interesting because he's sleeping in a dorm with these guys, and some of them don't care. And then families, like we are really mindful of what we're doing, and so it's very weird having him come home after he's been around people. And here I am in my house with my kids and my animals, and I'm like ordering my groceries. So it's very
You're feeling safe and secure until he comes home.
Exactly.
Well, thank him on behalf of everybody. He's a true
I will.
worker. It really has been a pleasure to talk to you, to get your input on what we can do better in the workplace to be safe. And speak to somebody else who's starts off and goes on that entrepreneur journey. And I wish you a lot of success in work, home, etc.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Really, pleasure. I was really looking forward to meeting you so much, Alexis. So thank you.